In this video, we're going to be using this assortment of products to remove and replace the paint coating on our front porch patio. Whoever painted this either didn't prep it well or they used really terrible paint, because this in just a couple years has chipped off really bad where we walk. So the whole lacquer thinner idea did not work out very well at all. I dumped out the whole can over the porch and let it set for a little bit and then tried scraping it off with a shovel, which was kind of a dumb idea, but none of it really came up very well. Then I tried with the pressure washer, which somewhat worked a little bit better, but was very messy. So my next step was getting paint stripper, which ended up working a lot better. I also got an actual floor scraper, which did help quite a bit in getting a bunch of paint off, but it still didn't do quite as good as I wanted. So I ended up using this diamond blade cup wheel, which worked out way better than anything else. And I really wish I would have just started with this to begin with rather than wasting money on lacquer thinner and paint stripper. So after going over the whole surface and then blowing off all the dust, you can see the world of difference it made. So now we are down to a fresh start of mostly bare concrete. First thing I'm going to do is wet it down a little bit and clean it with a degreaser. And then we're going to go to this. It is an etcher, and I'm going to try to clean it off as best as possible. The etcher dissolves in water and then you just sprinkle it over the concrete. Here you can listen to the chemical reaction going on. After going through the directions on how long the etching process is, you then need to rinse it off. And next we will go to this moisture barrier that you can put on. That front porch sweats really bad sometimes with the weather, so I'm going to use this to try to help with that. Since it has been a few months since this video was filmed, I know that moisture stopped to not do anything. We had a lot of cold temperatures happen and then a quick warm up, and we had some major sweating on the porch. I decided to clean up a few more things on the concrete, such as these heavy leftover paint areas that I could peel off. I also ended up deciding to do a few patches on some holes, and after they dried, just smooth them over a little bit using a paver. Our plans changed partway through and we decided to remove all the railing and leave it off. And this is our main color that we are doing. It is a tan. I applied masking tape against the house to keep it from getting paint on it, and then trimmed over the edges with a brush. And I gotta say, this epoxy paint laid down so smoothly on the concrete, it made it really nice. In this process, I wanted to use sand as an extra grip on the porch. So while the epoxy paint was wet, I applied the sand. And the first time I did it, I messed up on how much sand I was putting down and the direction that I was also going with the paint. And after it was dry, there was a very noticeable line down the middle of which side had more sand and which didn't. So that needed to be fixed. But before I did that, I needed to scrape off all the big parts that were in the sand, since this was not a consistent small grain. By this point, I still had not decided on doing more sand, so I did a second coat to completely paint over all the sand granules to make everything even, hoping that that middle line would disappear, but unfortunately it did not. And this is also the same point we finalized our decision to not put the railing back on the porch at all, so I removed the posts that were left. So I needed to do some more patching of holes where the Tapcons were holding those posts, and in the meantime decided to add a few more extra areas of repair, and once again went back through the whole painting process, and this time I tried to do a really heavy even coat of sand over the whole thing, scraped off the big grains, and then did another coat over top of that to paint all the sand the same color as the tan. So in total, this has 4 total coats of the epoxy paint. And after that, it looked a lot better than we did on the first time. You can still see a few lines slightly, depending on the lighting, but it turned out much better. And then I'm going to put a top coat on top of that. And in the top coat, I'm going to add this anti-skid additive just to help make it a little grippy. So this is probably unnecessary, but additional to the sand gripping, I'm doing the skid additive because I just wanted to make sure that this was not going to be very slippery, because I have nearly fell several times just with the porch being a little bit wet. This clear coat had a matte finish to it, and at the end we were very thrilled with the results and really loved the amazing transformation.